several of her boyfriends, they all described her as having very quick shifting emotions, going from happy to mad to sad very quickly. And interestingly, I saw that myself within her journal entries. Within the same day, I could see a person who was very happy to shifting to be very upset.
Back with my co-host, Michelle Ward. And before we get more into Jodi, and by the way, that was a great description of somebody with a borderline personality disorder. I have a Twitter here I want to share with you that maybe explains a little something. This is from at ILKON819. That's maybe an I, at Dr. Drew. The extra gunshots resulted from the gun being burned, the bullets cooked off, and then fired into Vashti. Michelle, does that make sense to you?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm certain that they would have some sort of ballistics expert to come explain that, but it seems a little precise for that to happen, but maybe it's a possibility.
We'll check more into that, maybe from Ted, maybe tomorrow. Also back with us, Mark. Jenny and Janine, and joining the panel, Mary Lou Allen Coogan. She was juror number 16 in the Jodi Arias trial. Last night, we reported that the defense is using Jodi's mental illness diagnosis by the prosecution, right, to keep her off death row. Mary Lou, what do you make of that?
I think that the defense had 5 years to prove and use the mental illness defense. In my opinion, right now they're doing whatever they can. They're using mental illness because their domestic violence and abuse defense didn't work.
Mary Lou, you're an emergency room nurse, and my understanding is obviously the autopsy photos were disturbing to everybody. I'm sure they were even tough for you working in the ER, but some of the jurors were deeply affected by them, were they not?
They were indeed. They were very graphic.
Are people doing okay? Are they getting treatment from having been through this process?
Yes, the court did provide us with some counseling services, and I know at least a couple have taken advantage of that.
And I guess you had some objective advice for any future jury members.
Yes, just do whatever you need to do to maintain your objectivity. For me, what worked, among other things, I purposefully did not look at the gallery in the courtroom. My husband could have been there and I wouldn't have known.
So you didn't see
out there.
You didn't see Travis's family or their reactions to what was going on in the courtroom?
I saw his family when I was going into and leaving the courtroom, but I purposely kept the emotional part out of it. That emotion was so raw out there.
Janine, you had a question for Mary Lou?
Well, I'm interested for just that reason. Why would you not look at them? Because a lot of times we decide on the death penalty based on who's surviving on either side of the fence. Why did you not look at the people that are surviving, especially before you came up with a verdict one way or the other?
My understanding of the instructions we had was that I was supposed to use what was presented as evidence and the testimony. And while I definitely know there was emotion out there, that was not supposed to play in my decision.
Michelle, you have a question?
Yeah, I commend you for that, because when it comes to verdict, you're absolutely not supposed to let emotion drive any of it. Of course, when it comes down to the penalty phase, it's a little bit different. But during verdict, that's great, and I'm glad you did that. I have a question for you, though. Had the defense embraced the mental illness and said, yeah, she's kind of a sick woman, would you have voted differently?
Probably not. Something that people need to remember, just because a person is diagnosed with a mental illness doesn't mean they're not responsible for what they choose to do.
Right. I agree with you, Mary Lou. And it's almost, whenever we talk about her having had a borderline disorder and connecting it to her behavior, I feel bad for anyone with the borderline diagnosis because they don't behave like that. We here on the behavior panel, we're always speculating she had psychopathy on top of the borderline, and it's those types that really don't, Michelle, you'd back me up on this, understand the consequence of their actions or don't care.
I mean, most borderline people, they hurt themselves, but they very rarely hurt anybody else.
Mark, you have a question?
Yes, Mary Lou, million-dollar question. The family is going to go through hell to go through this all over again. There's going to be a huge expense to try to secure the death penalty. 4 people were so entrenched in their position that nothing could change their mind. With knowing what you know about what took place in that jury room, do you think that you're going to find 12 people who could unanimously vote for death?
That's hoping for, absolutely. I don't think that people just aren't able to follow the instructions just because of all of the notoriety of the case.
Wow. Jenny, last question. I have less than a minute. Please keep it
Are you
quick.
saying the 4 didn't follow the instructions?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Jenny, I got to go to you. Quick.
Well, yeah. Okay, well, kudos to you for following the instructions. But what I want to know is, do you feel as bonded to the other jurors as some of the other jurors who have been on this show have talked about this sort of united feelings, having
Familial
gone through this
feelings.
process together?
Absolutely. We email back and forth. Several of us have gotten together. There is a bond here that nothing will be able to destroy. We've been through something together that will forever bond us.
And Mary Lou, my understanding is you stand up for those that did not vote with the majority, that they were within their rights to do so. You have no negative feelings about them.
Correct.
Right. In fact, you would protect their right. You feel upset when people attack them.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Back with my co-host, neuroscientist Michelle Ward. Nancy Grace spent time in jail, the same jail that Jodi Arias calls home. I asked her how the inmates feel about Jodi Arias.
They love her.
How do they love her? How did you react to that?
Well, they loved her, but they also said, well, you know, she's showing us what she wants us to see. How do I react? Of course they loved her. So did Travis. So did Daryl. So did Johnny or whoever. There's a long list of people that love. What's with you and La Violette? It's not La Violette,
I don't know why
by
I'm
the
thinking of
way.
her today.
It's
I don't know
not
what
La
that is. You're right.
Okay, I
You're
called
right.
her Elise La Violette because it sounds so beautiful. It's Alice La Violette. Okay, you got to force yourself to say it that way. But long story short, yeah, that's it. The other sounds so much more French, right? Anyway. They love her behind bars, and when you think about it, everybody loved her. So did Richard Samuels. Everybody loves her. Why?
Yeah.
Because she's a chameleon. She is who you want her to be. Only when Martinez pulled that mask off did we see what was really there. That's when we saw the real Jodi Arias. And right now, you know, I don't know what she wants from these women behind bars. Maybe she wants their food. Maybe she wants whatever they have. Maybe she wants friendship, protection. I don't know what she wants from them, but she's playing them, honey, like a fiddle.
Look, my understanding, one of the inmates also said that nobody knows, not just that we don't know the real Jodi, but we don't know the real story. What do they mean by that?
What they mean by that is Jodi Arias has told different stories to different women behind bars. Stories that she didn't tell on the witness stand, which further undermines her story she told the jury. She's told so many stories. I'm sure Martinez knows this. She's a liar.
Oh, amen. That's one thing we do know about the real Jodi. That's the only thing we know for sure.
You know what I think, Drew? You know what? Since nobody asked, I think when you take it all away, when you pull down that facade and you really look, I don't think there's anything there. I think that she has the basic instincts of a prehistoric animal, the savagery of an animal. I really do, because she is willing to kill. She is willing to use people. And there's no emotion. I'm sure you've got some fancy name for it. I don't know what it's going to be. What would you call it?
Well, we think we know she has a borderline personality disorder. That's what DeMarte measured. We all agreed with that.
A lot of syllables in it. But
psychopathy is what we think you're talking about. She had both. She has that goal-directed, cold-hearted, inability to really care about anything but her own goals. That's that piece you're talking about.
I mean, think of it like this. Have you ever picked up a frog and looked at him? See that look in his eyes? That's what's there.
Yes.
It's like nothing.
Yes.
Nothing.
Reptilian.
No recognition.
That's right. Well,
nothing.
it's interesting.
Yes, reptilian.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think if we took that beautiful face of hers off, she's very physically attractive to some people, not me, but to some people, I think there'd be a giant lizard under there. You hit it right. You hit the nail on the head.
Now you see why we love Nancy Grace. Giant lizard, Michelle. Yeah. That's the diagnosis. I missed it. It was staring me right in the face. She's a giant lizard.
It really gives reptiles and amphibians a bad name, though.
Oh, it's so interesting.